a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
What does real leadership actually look like? Is it a title, or is it what you're willing to fight through to get there? Because today's guest didn't just step into leadership. She earned it. While most people would have quit, she was battling cancer, commuting across the state, and still pushing forward to finish law school. And now she's helping make decisions that impact thousands of families right here in Knox County. Today we're talking about resilience, responsibility, and what it really means to serve your community. Welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, where hope meets freedom. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo, best-selling author, business growth strategist, and your host. And this is where we talk about money, business, leadership, and life. Because, as we say, prosperity is more than your bank account. It's about freedom in every area of your life. And if you're looking for real tools, real conversations in a community that's growing together, head on over to theprosperitylounge.com. Grab your free resources, take the next step forward. It is a free community. We all like free. I always say it's free. Tonight's episode is brought to you by our partners, Bello Business Solutions. Bello Business Solutions. Make business make sense. Contact the folks at Bello Business Solutions. Use that make business make sense phrase for a free, there's that word again, consultation. And our buddies over at LaPera Insurance. Call Joe LaPera at 865-252-0480 today, or email him at jlapera, that's JLAPERA, at farmersagent.com. Use promo code JRRadio, and the first 10 quotes get a free, there's that word again, gift card. I don't know how many quotes I've submitted just to get a gift card from Joe, but go ahead and get a gift card. We also have our friends over at lagos.com. Use the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and you get a free, there's that word again, 60-day free trial of any of their tools. Study smarter with the #1 Bible study tool starting today. And lastly, our buddies over at Pure and Easy Tea. Revitalize your body, refresh your mind, nourishing wellness one steep at a time. Use that promo code on the screen, scan that code, and get special rates for Prosperity Lounge listeners and watchers. So I appreciate that, guys. And of course, you can always support the stream. We have many ways to do it now. We have our coffee link, which is up there in our descriptions and everything. We also have our memberships now on our YouTube channel. It's $4.99 a month to get some exclusive content, some exclusive behind the scenes stuff, and get involved, get active, and help support the show. And of course, if you're a small business out there and you want to be a part of the Prosperity Lounge community, send me an email at joey@theprosperitylounge.com and put in the subject line partner. And I will get back to you and we'll have a discussion about what that looks like. All right, now that that's all out of the way, let's get into it, guys. My guest today is Knox County Commissioner Rhonda Lee. She represents District 7, Powell, Halls, and High School, and has built a career centered around service, accountability, and standing firm on principle. She's an attorney focused on criminal defense and protecting constitutional rights, a business owner, a former home builder and realtor, a mother of 6, and grandmother of 11, I believe I read, and someone who's fought through cancer while earning her law degree and never backed down from calling to make a difference. So, Miss Rhonda Lee, thank you so much for pulling up a chair, and welcome to the Prosperity Lounge.
Thank you, Joey. I'm so glad to be with you tonight and all my people out in Knox County, the best county in Tennessee.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here. We've known each other pretty much since I moved here. You're one of the first people I've met. You've been so great. And yeah, thank you again for being here.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so we are good. We always have a little bit of technical difficulties when I get started here, so I didn't turn your mic. So everybody on the YouTube heard everything we were saying.
Okay.
And radio heard hello.
Okay, I'll redo that, Joey. Thank you for having me, and I am so glad to be talking to the people in Knox County, the county that I love, best county in Tennessee.
Best county in Tennessee. So great. We said it twice.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So take me back a little bit. I know a little bit of your story. I've heard it told a few times, but I haven't heard it completely. You went to law school.
Yes.
Later than most people, probably.
Yes.
What drove you to that decision? What got you to say, I want a career change, and I want to do law, and I want to start this late in life, or later. I don't want to say late.
Well,
that commitment.
Okay, Joey. I will tell you a little bit. I'll go back a little bit before I even went to law school.
Okay.
My grandparents were both coal miners. My dad went to the 8th grade. My mom, I believe, went to the 8th grade. And there was no one in my family who went to college. We were from a coal mining town in Anderson County. Okay. And, it was you expected, you worked hard, and you just got a job. But I went to school, high school, did great. I was a really good student. But we were not, what you say, financially able for me to even think about college. That was not even an option. But I always wanted a big family, and I got married young and had 6 children, and I wanted to have 6 children. And, and I always imagined I would, be living in that house with a little, white picket fence, and never thought about what the next phase of my life would be. I got into the real estate market, and my husband and I, at that time, we were home builders. So we built houses, and I loved doing that and helping people a lot of times when they're first home. And, but, my kids started, growing up on me. They started getting a little bit, growing up as kids do. They don't stay little all the time. And so as I went through a life change, as sometimes we do, unexpected life change, and became a single mom, and I started thinking, what is Rhonda going to do for the rest of my life? And, with real estate and building, it's feast or famine, the market's up, market's down. I thought, well, this will not sustain me as a mom. And I thought, well, I need to do something else. And I'm a person of faith. My faith is my driver. My faith is the most important thing in my life, my family, and my freedom, my country. I'm a patriot. So I started thinking about what's Rhonda going to do, but I've always been involved in my community, helping with my children, coaching, helping with the ballpark, anything I could do to help my community. And then I started thinking, well, whatever I'm going to do in my next phase of my life, I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And so I thought, I've got to go back to school. And, it was, a time, and people said, well, you've lost your mind, you're too old. And I certainly couldn't financially see that how I could do that and work and raise my children. So I'll try to keep this. I know I don't have hours and hours to talk, but I prayed about it, and I felt that was something that the Lord had told me I needed to do. And I started at Mississippi, and I was started in the paralegal program. But once I took my first constitutional law class, I was hooked. And so I'm sitting there going, this is it. The lights came on. This is what I want to do. What can I do? And so I immediately after class asked my professor, who was the attorney and the dean, well, how long does it take to be a lawyer? And here I was thinking I was going to be a paralegal in 3 years, and I was trying to figure out the math. How long does it take to be a lawyer? So, of course, she told me you have to have your undergrad, and then you have to go to law school. So I knew then that I was hooked. And I will tell you, it was a lot of opposition between my family. My friends said, you're too old, you can't do this, you've lost your mind. So I just buckled down and I prayed about it. And I said, Lord, if this is your will, you're going to have to make the way. And he made the way. I had to do the work, and it was not easy. It was a real hard road. But I graduated from Mississippi with my paralegal degree, associate's degree. Then I went to UT for my undergrad degree. And then it come time to go to law school, and it really didn't fit in with me having a family and working to go to UT. And so I spent approximately about 11, 12 years getting my undergrad, and started thinking, well, I guess I've missed the boat because law school's not going to be an option. I'm not leaving Tennessee. This is my home. I'm 8 generations of Tennessee. My parents are here. My kids are here. I'm not moving. And so I had some great attorneys that I worked with, and a mentor of Don Payne, who was a legend in the law. And different ones said, go down to Nashville. And I was like, I'm not moving to Nashville. And so I was like, okay, out of respect, I'll drive down to Nashville and look at the law school. And immediately I went into the school, and I felt like a voice said, this is where you're going to be the next 4 years of your life. And so before I took that tour, I had signed on the line that I wanted to go to law school in Nashville. And as I drove back, 200 miles home, I thought, am I doing the right thing? How is this going to work? But I did start law school, and for 4 years, I commuted 3 times a week to get my law degree. Wow. And in the middle of that, I got cancer. And then, it was pretty discouraging because I thought, here I've been working to get my law degree to make a difference in people's life, but I'm going to die. And so, it worked out, and I was in the middle of finals, and I was kind of in the denial phase and thought, I'll just put that off because I'm in law school right now and I can't deal with that. So I put it off months and months and months. And I was on my way to take a final in law school. And I was interning at the Knox County DA's office, and I walked out in the parking lot and passed out. And so I woke up in the emergency room, and all I could focus on was I got to get to law school to take a final. And if I don't get there, they're going to fail me. And I do remember the doctor saying, we're going to call your law school. And so the doctor had come in and said, you have to do your treatment or you're not going to make it. And it was a reality check. I guess I was in the denial phase thinking, I'll deal with this later, And so I had 25 rounds of radiation in my eye.
Wow.
I had lymphoma cancer, and it looked like, my options were I could go blind. It may not work and I could die, or I might make it. And I was at the place where I had no choice. I either do it or, it's coming quick. So I did the radiation, and one of the side effects of radiation is it's a long time before you get your strength back. And when it came time to go back to school, I thought, I don't know if I can do this. So I was on a day by day, literally a day by day, because it was a 3-hour drive to school and then a 3-hour drive home. And most of the times I would get home way in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and get up and go to work, study, and go back to Nashville. And so, I thought, well, at least maybe my, children can put on my tombstone, she almost made it. But miraculously, God healed me. And I graduated, and I came out of law school still determined and a fighter that I was going to make a difference in people's lives. I had started off thinking that I was going to be in the prosecution side. I had been at the Anderson County and Knox County DA's office as an intern. And while I was in law school, I was sworn in as from the Supreme Court as a special assistant district attorney. So I was able to go in the courtroom, work with the DAs. Then I worked, after I got my undergrad, I worked for a year at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a paralegal, and was in the civil side where there was bankruptcy, Social Security. So I got, kind of see that area of law, and then it was time to go to law school. So then I went to law school, got cancer, graduated, and then when I got out of law school, I was ready to work. I had kids, and it was like, and I didn't have a job. And so I was asked to help someone who had been in jail for a couple of months. She'd lost her children, she'd lost her housing, and I was asked to help her. And so I started, okay, I'll just see what I could do to help her. And she was accused of stealing in Walmart. Mm. And so I insisted on seeing the videotape. And there was so much pushback of, why are you wasting so much time and spending so much time with her? And I watched the videotape, and it was not her.
Really?
It was not her. And so it was like the lights came on that I realized that we actually do put innocent people in jail, and actually innocent people do go to jail, and particularly people who are poor. So I knew that was that what God had shown me was going to be my calling. So I've spent most of my legal career practicing law with a focus in criminal defense, and a lot of my practice is with indigent folks, people who cannot afford counsel, people who do not have an advocate, do not have somebody to look after their constitutional rights, do not have anyone to respect them in the court of law. Along with that, we have a lot of mental health needs in Knox County. A lot of jails are full of people with mental health needs. And then we have a huge drug addiction problem. So these are problems I deal with all the time. I have done many, many trials, anything from first-degree murder, drugs, rape, child abuse, arson, drug charges, gun charges, shoplifting, burglary, theft, DUIs, anything from the gamut of first-degree murder all the way down.
Wow.
So I'm very experienced in the courtroom. I have a lot of trial experience, and so therefore I know the law pretty good. And I'm experienced in evidence and hearsay and things that are crucial in a jury trial.
I want to go back to your faith for a second.
Yes.
You're talking about praying to go to law school.
Yes.
Feeling called when you walked in.
Yes.
You get cancer during this time frame. Do you at any point feel tested mentally and spiritually?
Mentally, yes. Spiritually, it was a struggle, but I knew God was in control. And of course, when you go through trials, sometimes you wonder, where is my God that I have faith in? But I knew whatever was going to happen, he was in charge. And if my time was up, that's where God had took me, and I hoped that I would encourage my children that I left behind to pursue their dreams and make a difference of people in their community and in their life.
Faith during that season, how did it shape your fight? And then how did it shape how you decided to lead afterwards?
I don't know what I would have done without my faith. I don't know how people go through hard challenges in their life, and life is not always easy without God. But that's all I know. And I will tell you, I've known the Lord since I've been a little girl. And I remember I was baptized at the age of 5, and I was a little bitty girl, and I remember my pastor holding me on his knee to baptize me. But my faith, I don't know how people get through life, but my faith is what's pushed me through, enabled me to fight, and made me be strong with knowing God was with me.
Yeah, we can kind of see that prosperity, isn't necessarily built in easy seasons. It's built in moments where you decide
Absolutely.
not to quit.
Yeah. When you're in those valleys and trials, that's when you see God at work.
So you decided now you're going to move into public service.
Yes. Well,
Advocate.
I became a lawyer to make a difference in people's lives and to be a voice for those who didn't have a voice. And when we went through the COVID, when we went through the government shutdowns, the vaccines, the mask, and closing our businesses down, and I looked around our community and I thought, what is going on? What is going on in our country? And I thought, this is not right.
Right.
And I felt like, where's my voice? What am I doing for my community and using my voice as an attorney to stand up for our people? And at the time, my commissioner was term limited, and all around us was confusion. What are we going to do? It's hopeless. And I felt like God said, you're that voice.
It's God again.
God again, yeah. And I didn't know. I've always been a Republican, a conservative. I worked on Ronald Reagan's campaign, but I never saw myself in politics. But I felt like God said, you need to do this. I had people saying, you need to help us. And I thought, if I don't do it, I'm being a hypocrite. That what I went to law school, fought for, and care about every day in the courtroom. And here we were in a crisis in our country. So I put my name in to run for county commissioner. And it was it was a very eye-opening experience. But I can tell you, my district is people that I love. And I love talking to people in the community and what was important to them. And it encouraged me that the fight is worth fighting. So I won my election as county commissioner.
So I was going to ask your background as an attorney when you are in your leadership role today. How did that shape your approach to leadership?
Well, I felt like I was always been a leader, no matter what I was doing, whether in real estate or building or doing something with my volunteer in the community. I've always been like the one who worked the hardest, first one to volunteer, the last one that left. And so, but law school really taught me the mechanism of how you do those things, to be able to not be intimidated and talk and let people know, here's what our citizens want, here's what my community wants. But law school taught me so much in assuming that role of being a leader and how to be a leader.
So you talked about that case you had, that first case.
Yes.
And we're talking a little bit about constitutional rights.
Yes.
What does constitutional, or at least protecting constitutional rights, look like at, say, a local level? Is there any difference than, say, the big federal cases?
No, the Constitution is the Constitution, whether it's at the local or federal level. There's no change in the Constitution. What our founding fathers established is our rock, and that is unchangeable. So I think that of seeing the COVID and how the government overreached and limited how we could live our lives. And I had a granddaughter in kindergarten having to wear a mask 10 hours a day. And I was like, I've got to help her and my citizens as I look around, and how can I do that? I can be a voice for those who don't have a voice. And it all ties together with our constitutional rights.
Yeah. Do you see more, from an attorney's perspective, maybe more egregious constitutional violations on a local level because you're intimately involved in the local scene?
Yeah, that's kind of a hard question to answer. I think where we need help is to make sure that anybody across the board, their constitutional rights are protected. Yeah. And I'm talking about, the rich always can lawyer up. Sure. But when you look at the average citizen or those that are poor and indigent and can't afford attorneys, that we do everything to protect their mechanism to be treated fairly and justly in a courtroom.
Yeah. I think as you're talking, I think what I was trying to say, at least I reframed it in my head, was on a local level, sometimes we see people pushing the envelope a little bit more to try to get away with things, but they don't have somebody to stand up for them. So things like maybe masking lasts a little bit longer than it should, or people take liberties a little bit more than they should. On a national level, there's media gets round up, and some of this stuff doesn't happen as much. But locally, there's nobody to fight back sometimes, so people kind of push it.
What we experienced in the local state level was a reflection of what was going on across our country.
Sure.
And obviously, the federal mandates guided that. Mm-hmm. And then when we get into the local, we had the battle with the health department. And we had parents and the health department trying to be the determination of what was right for our citizens, not the citizens, and maybe not so much our legislative body, but a health department who is not elected.
Yeah, I guess it's a good place to go with that. When we lived in California during that time, we would, statewide, there's mandates. They were doing things like you can't have more than 10 people in your house on the holiday. You have to eat outside in your driveway on Thanksgiving. Neighbors would call the local authorities if you had more than certain people in your house to kind of tell on you a little bit. But the counties would also put in their own restrictions. So we lived on the border of one county and another. And in one county, it was completely shut down. Like there was no indoor dining, no outdoor dining, no gyms, no movies, no nothing. The county right next to it had limited outdoor dining. You can go to the movies, you can go to the gym, but you have to wear a mask. So literally, like, as far apart as we're sitting, like I'm shut down, I can't eat outdoors, and you're sitting there eating outdoors because that county decided something different than this county. And if I'm a citizen here, I can't do anything, but if I'm a citizen in this county, I can do more. And I think that's where people started seeing a little bit of their rights, being like, well, who's guiding what now, and who's telling me what? Like, I could literally walk across this county and eat outside, and then I come home, I have to like shut my doors, lock everything.
Yes, that was a huge problem, and I hope that one thing we learned through that experience, how important that local politics matters. There's a lot of people who think about the presidential election, maybe the governor, but they don't think about who's on their school board, who's their county commissioner, maybe who's their mayor, possibly who's their sheriff. And they don't really realize how important local politics affects our everyday life.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the school board stuff, honestly. And I've followed politics my entire life, and I didn't think about the school board stuff until they started showing the stuff coming out of Loudoun County, Virginia. And they were showing all the school board stuff there, and people getting shut down, people getting removed from meetings. And I was like, oh, school board is really powerful.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that on a local level and across the country.
Yeah.
How school boards were very powerful.
Yeah.
So I think as much bad that happened during COVID, I hope that it's a positive move to wake people up how important it is to think about who is in office on the local level and get out and vote.
Yeah, because a lot of those local elections, you'll see in the past people running unopposed.
Right.
If somebody just decided, I'm going to fill this seat for 20 years or 15 years, whatever it is, and run unopposed and make all the rules, and then people wake up, like you said, and they want to get involved, and it's like, well, how do I do that? I don't know what to do. Did I make the deadlines? Did I vote in the number of right elections? Did I do this or that? I just want to really help. And then now there's restrictions.
And I think it maybe hopefully what came out of that people started looking at what does our Constitution say? And I hope that it renews a whole interest in civics, that people think, where did our Constitution come from? How did we get there? And the value of our Constitution. And then you had parents who were reading the Constitution and saying, this isn't right. How can this happen in America?
Right. Yeah, like you said, it's the grassroots. We've seen it here in Knox County, all the different grassroots organizations that have sprouted up since COVID.
Yes.
That really have been effective in advocacy and change and getting people like yourself elected to make that change, and being the voice and pushing people who are going to be the voice for people that were voiceless for.
Yes. And I hope that that's maybe a positive thing, that we can try to look, what did we learn from that, so that we can move forward.
Absolutely. So what is something people misunderstand about county government?
Wow, that is I could go on about that. We could. People don't, and it's you learn every day about county government. You go in and you think you have one mindset, this is how our county government works, and then you think, here's what we expect. But then when you get on commission, and I'm talking about from my experience, you have to look at the budget. And then all of a sudden it's like, what does this cost? Because you have this preconception or maybe idea that it's an unlimited pocket, right?
Free money.
Yes, that, the government should pay for I'm talking about anything that needs like the roads and the zoning and all that the county has plenty money. And then when you get in there and then the pie starts getting cut and you see how much the schools get and how important our public safety is. And then when you take that out and then you see that $1.2 billion is not what the county has to spend, then you have to look at all the needs that we have to meet of the citizens. And it's a tough question because then you're running out of money and you're like, what do we do? Because we have such important needs that you expect from your government and your county. And you have a standard of living to think, we should have all the potholes fixed or all of our roads, and we should have stop signs everywhere and all the vital services that we expect.
Right.
And then when you hear we don't have the money, but then we're faced to, do we raise taxes? And then here we go. Taxes are back. And I will say with this and then having to inspect it and do a deep dive, that people from COVID, from the everyday working class people, they are making it as best they can. Some people are having to work 2 and 3 jobs.
Yeah.
They can't afford our taxes to go any higher. The city was wanting to raise the taxes, and, overwhelmingly the people shot that down. And I did not support a tax increase in the county. And I would not, I think, not to say that the county's wasting money, but we got to look at where we can cut back. Where can we cut back? Because every family has to look at their budget. They have to look at their rent, their mortgage, if they have a car payment, their groceries, what it takes to support their family. The fringe benefits you have to look at that. What can we cut out? And we have to do that as a county, and we have to do that as a government. And so I think we have to take a real look at where we can maybe cut some things and try to avoid a tax increase across the board.
Well, that's the thing with people in individual households. I mean, when you're stuck with an income problem,
absolutely,
and a budget crisis in your own house, there's
right.
There's a couple of things you can do. You can either cut your spending, increase your income, or a combination of both to get out of debt.
Right.
Now, county government and government in general, in my experience, when they say, "Hey, we're going to do this to get out of debt. We're going to just raise the taxes a little bit, or we're going to raise the gas tax a little bit to cover the roads or cover this. Don't worry. This is a 5-year plan. And after 5 years, we're going to be good." Well, the tax doesn't go away. Just look at the California gas prices, where they're almost $8 a gallon now. And most of that is gas tax to fix the bridges that then go to something else. And then, we still need to fix the bridge, so we need to do another 10-cent tax. Okay. Fine, no worries. And it's another 10-cent tax, another 10 cents. Because once government gets their hands on it, they don't
Absolutely.
give it back.
They don't give it back.
Cut either.
No. They, as we've seen, a lot of administrations have kind of kicked that can down the road, and now we're in almost a dire circumstance with our debt.
Yeah.
And so we have this huge amount of debt that's coming due. How do we balance that with what our expenses are with inflation and serving our county? And so all those things are in play. And it is very, very difficult making those tough decisions. And being on commission, we approve the budget and zoning. And, with that, you've got people on both sides. And you're never going to make everybody happy. No. So it is it's a grueling, what is the best decision for this community and the county? And you're not going to make everybody happy, but I think it's important that you do, and you let your integrity and the best interests of Knox County guide you. Absolutely. Not any particular special interest or any particular thing that but what is best for that community and what is best for the county as a whole. So it is not easy decisions that we sit there and make.
No, absolutely. Let's move into some counties. We're talking about the county stuff, so let's stay on track with that a little bit. What are some of the biggest challenges facing Knox County right now?
I think infrastructure is a big challenge that we have,
Infrastructure.
and housing.
That word.
Yes, infrastructure. I tell you, I didn't really understand, what all encompassed infrastructure until I was right in the middle of that.
Giant word.
Yes, it is. And if I could just expound on that,
Sure.
that is our roads, our utilities, and everything that provide the services for the city. And people don't think about our roads and the utilities all the time until their roads falling apart, or their tires are being busted out by potholes, or development is taking over and the traffic is backlogged and they're trying to get to the hospital or trying to get their kids to school.
Now, I don't want to name names on this one, but there was somebody who is involved in making decisions, let's say. And their response to the infrastructure question was kind of snuck up on us. But we have plans to deal with it. Now, if you're approving developments left and right, and you see apartments going up, multifamily housing, neighborhoods getting huge, and then go back and go, we have an infrastructure problem. Where did that come from? Is that a little short-sighted or facetious, as they would say?
Well,
Curious.
I'll say to respond to that Knox County has not really prepared for Knox County for about 25 years.
Okay.
And so we've had an explosion of people moving to Knox County because this is the best place to live in the country. It's beautiful. Who doesn't want to live here with the mountains? And we have low taxes in the state of Tennessee. Knox County has jobs. We have education. We have everywhere that would make it a great place to live.
That's why we came.
That's why people are coming, by the masses to come to Knox County. However, there hasn't been planning. I don't know why before other administrations, if they never thought about Knox County was going to grow, but they didn't sit down and come up with a plan of how the growth was going to happen. So the last few years since I've been on commission, we've been looking at ways to kind of control where we were going to build and the limitations on what could be built and how that looked out, and have done a deep dive of how this county was going to grow. And it's been a very confusing journey for most people in the county. And but we've got to do something.
Advanced Knox.
Yeah, Advanced Knox. Yeah, Advanced Knox. But I will say a lot of citizens I talk to feel like that their local government is not listening to them.
That's the feeling I get when I talk to people too.
Yeah.
They're confused by it. They're not really sure. It seems to be more of a reactive solution disguised as a proactive solution. And
well, I will say, like, particularly our rural communities are being, now we can't force people to continue to farm. And if, they don't want to, grandma and grandpa decide that they can't, or they pass away and then the next generation doesn't want to farm, that family is entitled to be able to sell their property. But we see we're losing our rural communities. And I think in my district and districts close to me, that is really an issue, that they're afraid that their communities are going away. And so that has been probably the number one outcry from people, that they're concerned that we are building and exploding so fast, and that our children can't afford to buy homes.
Right.
And what are we going to do about it? And I don't think there's just a magic brush that's going to fix this problem overnight.
So what can families and business owners in Knox County, what should they be paying attention to right now, especially with this upcoming election season?
Well, I think they need to be really listening to the people who are running for office, who's running for mayor and who's running for county commission, because the mayor will come up with a plan and want to go with that, but it's going to take the county commission approving that, and particularly the money, what it's going to cost, in the direction of how Knox County is going to grow. So it's very important that our leaders, and we vet them out, and we know what they stand for, and we hold them accountable that what they tell us during the election, when they get in office, they're going to do what they told us before they got elected.
Absolutely. Everyday citizens who are listening right now, who want to get active, who want to get involved, who want to have a voice in local decisions, what are some things they can start doing today?
Well, they can go to the county commission.
Oh,
Those are
appreciate
important
people
meetings. Go to the county commission, because that's where all the legislative body of the county, all of those meetings are recorded. The agenda is posted every month, so you know what's coming. You can go back and look what happened, weeks and months and years ago. And so get involved. And if you can't come down to the courthouse and be live, you can go on the internet and watch. That is a great way to see what's going on in our local government. There is too much information out there, and it's going to require people get off their couches and either get involved, find out. Information is online, it's on the TV. If you just try to do a little bit of research, there's too much information out there to say, where do I get that? How do I get that? And I don't know where to go. It just takes a click of a switch. But it is important that people start now in election season, that listen to what the platforms of the people who are running for these offices. Email them, reach out to them, call them, ask them, show up where they're going to be, and ask them in an open meeting, how do you feel about taxes? How do you feel about infrastructure? How do you feel about housing? How do you feel about our schools? How do you feel about our services, ambulance service, fire department, trash service? Get them people to tell you what they want to do if they go in office and how they'll do it. And then make educated and informed decisions and vote.
And then stick around.
Between
the election season.
Stick around.
Hold them accountable in between.
Right. Don't just okay, the election's over, my job is done. You still got to watch what these people were doing and say, hey, I heard you say at this meeting, hey, I watched how you vote. And hey, this vote is coming up. I'm asking you to vote this way. And when they don't vote the way that they promised you, you hold them accountable.
That's right. That's right. Look, I want to go back into faith real quick for a bit. You have leaned into that on commission to the point where you brought a resolution recently.
Yeah.
That you felt strongly about.
Yes.
To support Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm.
Probably a no-brainer for you to do that. Bring it up and set it going forward. But you faced a lot of negative press, backlash, remarks, all about it. But you still pushed through with it because you were securing your faith, securing what you were doing. It's another trying moment there.
It was I would say that was one of the most trying times of my time on commission. It's also one of my most proudest things that it was passed. I never imagined that anybody or any backlash would be against a man who stood for freedom of speech with no violence. What was our country founded on? What is our First Amendment right? Charlie Kirk sat down and discussed with everyone, and he welcomed questions and said, what are your questions? Let's talk about it. He was never about violence. He was murdered on national TV. He is a modern day martyr who stood for his faith and family and country, which are totally my beliefs. I never imagined there would be any backlash, particularly even more so disappointing from my own party, the Republican Party. And I'm a conservative Republican. I own that. I will always be that, and I don't back down from that, regardless of what the party says. And if the party wants to lean left and the party wants to embrace those ideas, I will not back down. And I got death threats over that.
Really?
Yeah. And it was
Doesn't surprise me.
one of the most heartbreaking things was, I invited Turning Point from University of Knoxville. And when Charlie came to Knoxville, there was thousands of people that came to hear Charlie. And when Charlie was murdered, and during his funeral, thousands rallied in honor of Charlie Kirk. And I asked the Turning Point chapter to come so I could present them with the resolution. And I sat there and my heart was broken and tears filled my eyes because I was afraid that the county commission was not going to approve that resolution. And here these young people from University of Tennessee of Knoxville were there for Charlie. And as the vote came, and I was sitting there not knowing what, but I was so disappointed for those young people. But I could hear one of them behind me go 1, 2, 3. And we got the votes to pass. And I was so happy for them, for the cause of Charlie Kirk and the faith that I so embrace, and for our country and our community, and that it wasn't about forcing anybody a particular religion, but again, it was enforcing and honoring that we have the freedom of speech and there should be no violence. But it became such a violent time.
Yeah. And by doing that, you also showed those students that government can work.
Yes. Yes, government can work.
Government can work.
And so it was a proud moment when it did, but I think they learned a valuable civics lesson.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now you're stepping into a new chapter.
Yes.
Running for Sessions Court.
General Sessions in Knox County.
Court
Judge.
I'm going to ask you, what is driving that decision to get off a county commission and become a judge?
Well, first of all, county commission is term limited. And so you can't have a career on the county commission. But most importantly, back to my faith. My passion was the law. And I always saw down the road at some point of being on the bench. And we had a judge that surprisingly decided to retire. And I prayed about it, and I felt like the Lord said, now is the time. And so I did not want that the people that elected me had faith in me to feel like I was letting them down or abandoning them. But I know that there's also like-minded folks in my district that would carry that torch even better than I did. And so I didn't feel like I was the only one in my district that was capable of doing that. But I know from my experience and my ability that I can be a very fair judge and respect all citizens and follow the rule of law and follow what the Constitution says, a courtroom. And General Sessions is the people's court. And a lot of times, this is the very first experience that a lot of people ever have in a courtroom. And so it can be very traumatic and shocking and scary for the person that enters that courtroom and the families and the people who care about the people. And I think it's, the judge sets the demeanor of the courtroom. And it is the people's courtroom. And I feel like this is the people's court, and the people should decide who is on the bench. It should not be decided by the county commission. It should not be 8 people or 11 people that decide that. It should be the voters of Knox County. The people decide who runs our government, and the people decide who is on the bench.
Can you kind of explain to me as a layman what the role of Sessions Court judge is, what their duties are?
Sure. There are 5 courts that consist of the general sessions. 5 of those are related to criminal, right? So you have misdemeanor court, which would be anything like, say, shoplifting, simple possession, public intoxication. That's in the misdemeanor court.
Okay.
And then you have DUI, anybody who's charged with being under the influence and driving.
Okay.
And then you have bond and arraignment, and that's when people come in and they make sure that they understand what they're being charged with. And if they have an attorney, they're made aware what their charges are. And they find out if you can't afford an attorney, they fill out an affidavit if they need to be represented. And then we have felony sessions. And felony sessions could be anything from murder, anything that somebody could be looking at more serious crimes. And so what those courts do is they have bond hearings.
Okay.
And sometimes you have people that are on probation and then they violate and they have to come back to court to see how their court matter is going to be handled.
Okay.
But all of session courts are, the judge in that court cannot sentence anybody to more than 11 months and 29 days. So if they're in the felony sessions and they're looking at serious charges, in any of those courts, you would have a probable cause hearing. And so that is not whether somebody's guilty or not. It's whether there's enough probable cause to send that up to the grand jury. And if the grand jury indicts them, and then they would come out of criminal court, and that's where people would be looking at a jury trial.
Okay.
So a lot of those cases get handled in sessions. Either a case gets dismissed or a case, they come to an agreement between the state and somebody who's charged. So they may get worked out. And then you have the civil side of general sessions, and that is anything that would be a lawsuit up to $25,000. A lot of that is landlord-tenant, or say creditors where somebody's owed money on a credit card or maybe a medical bill, and that is the civil part of general sessions. There's 5 of those courtrooms, and there's 5 judges, and they rotate. They're on a 5-week rotation so that no judge is in one court all the time. They get a little bit of variety, and there's a high volume of cases. And so general sessions has a lot of cases that come through. I think I heard recently maybe 65,000 cases a year come through general sessions.
Wow.
That's what the last report I believe I heard, but it's a high volume. And so it's very important, and it is the initial part of, and this is where most people come through general sessions.
So,
And I practice in those courts on a daily basis. So I do a lot of cases in those courts, and as well as in criminal court as well.
So if I'm going to wrap my head around it, Rhonda, it's sort of like you're the first line of defense.
Sure. Yep.
And
That's where it
filter
initially
out
starts. Yes.
for everybody going up
Yes.
up
Up
chain
to the
of command.
next. Yes. Up to the next court.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and the general sessions is very critical and crucial.
Yeah.
And it has to, due to the large amount of cases, it has to move, and dockets have to be done efficiently, and it needs to be not one of the things that we need to make it efficient for the court, efficient for somebody who's in the justice system, and for the taxpayers. So it's important that we keep those dockets moving, and somebody's not waiting 2 or 3 years to get their case resolved.
Wow. Well, we are just about out of time.
Oh, okay.
I know we wrapped up real good. We got a few minutes left here. I have some questions that came in from listeners. I want to get a couple in before we wrap up. Karen in Powell want to know, what's the best way to hold local government accountable?
Being at meetings and follow how they vote. Follow how they vote and make sure, like I said, on the county commissioners, watch how they voted, what they voted for, and then ask them about it. And the same with the mayor and any other elected official.
Susan in Farragut wanted to ask, what advice would you give to someone wanting to step into public service besides don't? That's my joke. Never mind.
Well, it is such a, it is, on the flip side of it, it is such an honor and a privilege to represent your district or your county or your city or whatever. Of how would you get into it? Start showing up and say, how can I find out? What can I do? Whether it be a petition, maybe for, anything, a dress code, or maybe you don't like, what they're serving at McDonald's, but get involved in your community, get involved, find out find out what's doing, and start getting involved.
And finally, Keith and Carnes asks, how do you handle criticism when standing on principle? And he had a follow-up that asked, this kind of goes with that recent flyer that went around criticizing a bunch of candidates recently. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not.
Well,
or not, but
your first, it's hurtful, to say that it's disappointing. But finding out where did this come from and the motive behind it, it doesn't stop you. It so shows you that people get desperate, but politics can be very dirty. Mm-hmm. But it's important that you embrace and you stand by your principles, no matter the threats, the criticism, the smear tactics, that you stand strong. It's not easy, but you know what? If you care about what you're doing, you do it.
And last one is from Michelle in Knoxville. She wanted to know, what qualities should people look for in someone who wants to serve in the judge position?
In the judge position?
Yeah.
Well, that they practice law, okay? And obviously you have to be an attorney, but they practice regularly and they practice within the general sessions courts, and they know the rule of law and not just what maybe is happening in that particular, but what happens at the next level. Because if you can try cases and you can stand before the citizens of Knox County and be an advocate, you kind of know a lot about law. You know about humans, you know about hearsay. You have to stay on top of it. And so you have to be working at the excellence level and being able to not just be on time, be early. Be able to roll up your sleeves and say, I'm going to work until it's done.
I love that. Well, Rhonda, we're at our time for our rapid fire round questions.
Okay.
10 questions
okay.
Specifically for you. Mondays and Wednesdays, or if you're listening to this show on Mondays and Wednesdays, everybody gets the same 10 questions. But on Friday night, here in the lounge, everybody gets a specific set of 10 questions. So, first thing that comes to your mind, leadership is blank.
Leadership is doing what you would, don't expect more out of somebody than you're willing to do.
Faith means blank.
My faith means that I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I believe in praying and listening to the Lord's voice.
The toughest moment of your journey so far was?
In my life?
Your journey.
Probably my journey of the cancer. And feeling like that I have gave a lot of years, and I still had children, and I still had parents, and I didn't want to let anybody down, and feeling helpless and hopeless.
What keeps you grounded?
My faith.
What does service mean to you?
Service embraces a lot of stuff. Service is, not just waiting on people to ask you. It's looking to see what the need is and say, how can I serve?
What's a lesson that cancer taught you?
Cancer does not discriminate. There's no discrimination with cancer. It's a terrible, awful disease. And it just doesn't affect that individual, but it affects the whole family and everybody that cares about that person.
Knox County's future is?
I think Knox County's future is bright. And I am looking forward to where we're going and headed. And I think that in spite of our problems, whether it be our roads, infrastructure, that we have some really great people that love this community, and we have a community of service. And I think people rise up and they will do what it takes to make Knox County move forward and continue to be a great place to live and raise our children.
What does family mean to you?
Family. Family is everything. It's right next to my faith. But you know, family is not just your biological family. Your brothers and sisters that you work with, you deal with every day, that stand beside you and that go through those trying times.
Absolutely.
Those are family just as much as your blood family.
What does courage look like?
Courage. Courage is facing things that you don't want to do, but it's for the right reason.
And lastly, what is your personal definition of prosperity?
Prosperity, first of all, starts with your faith. And I think you can't prosper in any aspect of your life without having a base of your faith. And then we look at your family, grounded and rooted in your family values and embracing your family and loving your family and forgiving your family. And then we look to our country of being a patriot and caring about your community and doing for others and always saying, what can I do for my neighbor?
Absolutely. Well, we're just about that time, everybody. True leadership is forged in adversity. Faith and resilience shape long-term impact. Local decisions affect everyday life more than people realize. Accountability is a responsibility, not an option. And prosperity starts with purpose and service. Rhonda, if people want to get a hold of you, connect with you, read more about you, learn more about you, where's a great place for them to go?
Yes, they can go to my website, voterhondalee.com. They can reach out to my cell phone number, 865-389-6560. They can also reach out to the website of knoxcounty.org. Under the commissioners, they can email me, contact me there. But it doesn't take much to find me. I'm out there, and I welcome anybody to reach out to me by email, text, call, and I'll be glad to talk to you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you.
you.
So much for your candor and your courage and your willingness to put yourself out there in more ways than one.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If today's conversation inspired you, get more connected to your community, get more intentional about your leadership, and in your own life, head over to theprosperitylounge.com. That's theprosperitylounge.com. Join the free community, get the tools, and surround yourself with people who are growing just like you. Well, that's it for everybody today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and Twitch and everywhere else we're streaming and listening here on 96.3 on Friday nights. We'll be back next week. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
Pull up a chair, the journey's begun. This is where momentum